When we surrender our power and let go of control, that is when we invite the space for magic to flow into our lives. Surrender your power, trust that you will be taken care of, allow for the magic to flow. Money is abundant, opportunity is abundant, everything flows to me. The magic will reveal itself if you allow yourself to see it. Stay focused, stay open, everything happens for a reason. When you change your mind, you change your life. You control how you see, experience, and feel your reality. I know my value, I know my worth. Speak your truth, and others will feel and see it too. The magic awaits.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to It's the Bearded Man podcast with your favorite, the world's favorite bearded man, Bob Bay. Each week with our guest episodes, I try to put the spotlight on someone who, in my eyes, is living their most authentic life. Today's guest is from Montreal, Canada. She's a global community builder, serial entrepreneur, event producer, and change maker. She's the founder and CEO of Pangea Dreams, the #1 industry leader in women's educational retreats. She's the co-founder of M.E.S.H, a community building initiative focused on intentional connections. She's the co-founder of Multiverse, the world's first marketplace for high-quality functional mushroom products. And lastly, the co-founder of M.E.S.H. When superfoods and mushrooms collide, M.E.S.H magic remains. Today on the podcast, Tracy Komlos. How we doing?
I'm so good. That was a great intro.
I almost lost my breath. You got so much shit going on. I was like, fuck, I need to take a little commercial break getting through this.
Hearing you say that, I was like, damn, I'm busy.
You are definitely busy. That is so clear to me. Everything I just announced, and then there's like so many other layers of things that you are involved in that I don't even think people like understand. No. LA Hike Club, you're throwing barbecues on Sunday. Now you're telling me there's another one Thursday. I'm just like, where does this energy inside you come from?
Honestly, it's truly from a place of passion, of surrounding myself with amazing humans. Like that's really what ignites my soul. And so being able to be in a position where I can bring people together to share a beautiful experience inspires me and ignites that so much. That gives me the energy to go and create all the things that I'm working on. Yeah,
it's interesting when you're creating experiences for other people and you see them enjoying themselves, it almost just feels like this fire inside you that like, oh yeah, I'm gonna keep doing this. This is like the best feeling in the world.
You were at the midsummer party that I threw last
Incredible.
month.
Yeah. Oh yeah, forgot about that one. Add that to the list.
But even with that event, we had 150 or 160 people there. There were so many times throughout the evening that I just took a step away and just looked at everyone having an amazing time.
Yeah.
And just sort of smiled to myself.
Yeah.
And that's what it's for. That's what it's about. Like I love to be able to foster that opportunity for people to connect in a beautiful environment. And I also just love being able to connect people and then seeing the magic that happens from that.
Yeah. I had known of you before going to this event, and then Rod was the one told me, he's like, yo, you got to get a ticket to this. And it was one of those things, it was like 5 days out. I'm like, pull the trigger, got to figure out the outfit. And I just remember so many times throughout that night. And I saw you a couple of times kind of just like by yourself, just like watching people, like watching the scene unfold. And I was like, this woman is unstoppable. Like you were just so energetic. You had a smile on your face the entire time. Like I could just feel the radiant of energy. And then on top of that, I didn't really know anybody there, which is what I love, is like going to things where maybe 5 or 6 people and there's like 100 people you get to meet. And everybody there was just on the same level of just like opening, very kind. Like there's no awkwardness of like trying to introduce you to someone else. It was just such a welcoming community. And especially just in the last like 3 months when things are slowly starting to open up again, it was like, oh, this feels good. Like this is what we've been missing out on for so long, is like being around people. And it was such a welcoming to meet all these people. And then I was like, damn, this girl Tracy, I gotta keep tab on her because she's up to something. I don't know what it is, but she's doing something big.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I remember we had a really great conversation towards the end of the night.
Yeah. Well, everyone was grooving around, dancing, having a time of their life. Oh, that was such a blast. Mm-hmm. You're 19, and I think this is like a really pivotal moment for probably your life and giving you the permission to just do all these things that you do, where you're working for this corporate job. It's like a 9 to 5 over the summer. It's for this financial company. And I weirdly had a very similar experience where I had interned for a company during my junior year of college. And I was like, oh, wow, this is not what I thought I wanted to like work in the corporate world. I was like, this is where I got to go after college. And I was like, this is not where I want to go. And it redirected my entire life. And I feel like this opportunity for you where you find yourself miserable ends up giving you the green light to jump ship, to believe in yourself, and to go down this entrepreneur path. What skills, strengths have you found to be pivotal into believing yourself to always find a way? Because that's the one thing that I see in entrepreneurs and people that like yourself, like the fact that you have co-founded and started so many things. Not only do you believe in yourself and like finding ways to make things happen, but you are constantly always finding a way to execute it.
Honestly, because there is no other option. You know, like for me at 19, when I was working at a bank, you know, my parents are both financial advisors and in the finance space. So they were like, go and work for one of our friends, see if you like it. And then eventually one day you can take over our books and our business. And so I did that. I lasted 3 months. And in those 3 months, I was miserable. And I was like, what's the point? What's the point of living? What's the point of life if this is how you're going to feel every single day for the rest of your life? And so that wasn't an option in my mind. I was not going to settle to live a life where I felt that way. I felt incredibly insignificant. I felt like I wasn't doing anything that was a bigger purpose, you know, that was pushing something bigger than myself forward. I wasn't connecting with people. And that's not how I thrive. And so I was like, I need to figure out a solution to this because this isn't an option. And so, you know, very much like within entrepreneurship and starting businesses, it really is like there's no other way but to figure it out. And whatever that means, you know, in whichever circumstance it might be, I was always, you know, kind of figuring things out on my own and finding those answers that I was searching for because no one around me was doing anything that I was ever doing.
So that's
being relentless, honestly.
Yeah. But even then, where are you getting this from? I know this is the moment, but like there had to have been so many layers or things that happened in your life that allowed you to really believe like, I'm going to find a way to do this shit.
Yeah, I mean, so both of my parents, you know, I'm so grateful to them because both of them were very much encouraging for me to really speak my voice, even as a child. Like I always had an opinion. You know, when I was 5 years old and I didn't want to do something, my mom or my dad would be like, well, why don't you want to do this? Tell us, we'll have a conversation and then we'll hear you out and we can make a decision then. So I always was taught to speak up and that my opinion mattered. So that was from a young age. And then actually, when I was 19, it was before I started to work for this bank, I took my first solo kind of like backpacking trip to India. And it was the first time I had been in a country like that. You know, I had traveled with my family to like Mexico or the Dominican, but India was on a whole other level. And I experienced for the first time like true pain, suffering, poverty, but also true happiness, love on a whole different level that I wasn't exposed to here in the West. And that is what truly opened my eyes to the dualities and also the different ways one can be happy in life. And that wasn't dependent on money, job, what car you drove, with the clothing that you wear. And that experience in itself gave me the permission to question how we live here in North America and question the whole idea of a traditional 9-to-5 job and getting married and then having kids and the white picket fence. And I was like, no, like none of that fits me. I don't want to be confined to these restrictions. And I want to have full freedom and flexibility of the life that I create for myself. And I need to strive constantly for happiness and joy. And what does that mean for me, Tracy? Not what does that look like for everyone else. And I really was able to hone in on that feeling. It was like a palpable feeling while I was in India, you know, looking at children on the street that, you know, we might look down upon because of the way that they're living, but actually reframing that and seeing the beauty in so much simplicity and the happiness in that. And I was like, that is what life is truly about. And that's how I want to live my life.
Wow. Yeah, that's so much perspective that you're seeing at 19.
Yeah.
The thing is, we only know what we know. And if we're raised in whatever city this is and that's all we know, you can see TV commercials or you can see movies, but you don't understand it until you're actually embracing it.
Exactly.
And
it's a feeling.
Yeah, it's a feeling. And so to throw yourself in there at 19, I can only imagine, like, that's got to just allow you to come back literally a completely changed person, that everything that you probably thought of, like, your life is just like out the door, because your perspective of like what is out there just goes through the roof.
Oh, it was. And I really went to India in a way with this like savior mentality that I know the right way, you know, again, because you only know what you know. And what we're taught is very much that us here in North America, we're the first world country, we do it right. And so going there, it was a huge reality check and slap in the face, you know, on so many levels, like spiritually, you know, environmentally, emotionally. Like it was a huge wake up call to open my eyes to a different way of being. And actually, when I came home, I had reverse culture shock for 2 months.
What does that mean?
I could not adjust for 2 months to how wasteful and how backwards we were in terms of like our emotional depth and spirituality and connection to happiness here in North America. And, you know, when I got back, my parents took me to one of my favorite restaurants, and I wanted a salad, and it was like $25 salad. And I was like, $25? Do you know how many rupees that is in India? I could buy a family of 6 dinner for a week.
Wow.
And so just coming back and like understanding the value of $1 here versus there, you know, my parents had to sit me down and they were like, Tracy, it's all relative. You can't live on 5 cents a day here. You can maybe there, but it's different. And it just, again, it was another opportunity to dive deeper into truly, like, I guess, like my values, my relationship with myself, my relationship with my surroundings, where I prioritized emotions and feelings versus things. And that's also what really allowed me to tap into my intuition, because I was really, really, you know, operating from a place of feeling. And why am I doing this? Does this feel good? Does this resonate with me, rather than just doing to do?
Wow. That's like, yeah, yeah, I'm like just mind boggled, because I've never been able to fully, I feel very fortunate because I'm a very open-minded individual, very spiritual, but I've never fully been able to embrace myself in a culture where it's taken me out of everything that I've ever known. And it's definitely something that I need to do, because I know there's going to be so much that comes from it. Would you say that this moment kind of was some of the inspiration for why you ended up launching Pangea Dreams?
Absolutely. It was definitely the catalyst.
Really? Okay.
Because I realized at that point how crucial travel really is to expand your human experience here. You know, again, it's embracing other cultures allows you to look at something from a place of non-judgment, which is a lesson that you can then bring into every aspect of your life. You know, when you go into another culture as a foreigner and you're in a new land with a new language, new food, new people, new tastes, smells, like you're really embracing everything. You can read about a different culture in a textbook, but you'll never be able to feel it. And again, it's like going back to that feeling of feelings and really allowing that to completely encompass you. And I think that for me at that point, after my India trip, you know, I finished university. I did 2 exchange programs, and one was in Australia, which was incredible. And there I traveled a bunch. And then I did one across Europe, which again, I traveled all over. It was amazing. And once I graduated, I was like, I need to figure out a way to get paid to travel the world. And that was the problem I was solving. That was it. I didn't know how, but I knew that again, coming back to being relentless and there was no other choice. There was no other way. There was no other way. That was the problem I needed to solve. And I was going to do it no matter what that meant.
Yeah. So how did you know? Because I know it originally started as a production company before it kind of evolved into this retreat for women. But how did you know production, content? Were you already very interested in the marketing space?
Not at all.
Okay.
So, you know, in high school, I got my first point and shoot little Canon camera.
Okay.
And I just started documenting, you know, high school, anything.
Yeah.
I loved it. And I started doing little like fun photo shoots. I started taking pictures at graduations, stuff like that. I got paid to do like some event photography throughout university. I started to upgrade my camera game a little bit because I just loved photography. And then through my travels, you know, through India, Australia, Southeast Asia, like all over where I went, I always had my camera with me. And so I backlogged all of these incredible travel photos. And then every time I would go on a trip, I would post all these albums on Facebook until I think it was like in 2012, a friend of mine was like, Tracy, stop posting all these photos on Facebook. No one looks. There's this new app called Instagram and they have really cool filters. So maybe you can post some of your photos there that you love. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll check it out. Again, nobody at that point knew what Instagram was going to be today.
Yeah.
And so I started going through all my travel photos and picking out my favorite ones, putting terrible filters, now looking back, horrific filters on these photos. And actually, like my Instagram started to grow over the next 2 years. And
just from posting
organically,
wow,
using hashtags, playing with like what it meant. Again, I had no idea what Instagram was or, you know, and I had 500 followers. I was like, wow, that's awesome. Then I had 1,000, then I had 2,000, then I had 5,000. And it was at around the 5 to I think 8,000 mark. Again, this was almost, I don't even like 8 years ago or so. Brands started to reach out to me and email me being like, hey, can we send you our sunglasses? Could we send you our sunscreen? Could we send you our clothing? And I was like, sweet, I'm getting all this free stuff. It's awesome. I'll do it. But very, very soon after I started receiving these things and then actually taking photos and doing all that stuff, I was like, I'm actually spending a lot of time doing this. And what am I getting? A pair of $60 sunglasses that cost them 10 cents to make? This doesn't make any sense. And that was when Pangea clicked. And I was like, I know how I'm going to get paid to travel the world. I'm going to start a production company, and all of these brands need epic content that's created by actual users that's relatable. And I'm going to get them to pay different package prices depending on how many photos they want. And then I get to go to Bali or Cuba or Mexico. And so I did that. And in the first year, we went to Bali, Iceland, Cuba, and the Bahamas. I brought my friends on the trips with me to be the models in the photos. I took a lot of the photos, and then I would find photographers in local places to come and take the photos too. And we would work with small to mid-sized brands. They would pay for the whole thing. And it was incredible.
Wow. And you're just traveling around doing the thing that you really wanted to do.
Exactly. I got to travel. I got to get paid. And I was able to bring my friends with me on this experience. And just in doing that, I really learned, you know, what are brands looking for in terms of like quality marketing content? You know, how do you take photos that are relatable and fun that will work in an Instagram feed? What is an Instagram aesthetic? Like I learned all of that. I taught myself everything. How do you also reach out to brands? How do you pitch to brands? How do you create a deck? What is packaged pricing? Like so much trial and error. And I had no roadmap. Nobody else around me was doing it. And people just thought I was crazy. But it was through that experience that I really taught myself, you know, how to put yourself out there and be fearless in that way. And also to step into my value and into my worth as a creator. And I was sharing all of that on Instagram. Every time we would travel to a new destination, work with all these brands and the tourism boards and hotels, I would get so many questions from people that were following me being like, what are you doing? How are you doing this? What does it mean to collaborate with this brand or work with the tourism board? Like, how are you in Bali 1 month, Iceland the next? Like, what is this life that you're living? And it was after a year of those kind of questions that I was like, wow, I've built this community digitally that obviously are coming to me and asking me or seeking something from me. I don't have the bandwidth to, you know, respond to every single person the way that I would like to. Why don't I just launch a retreat that basically teaches people everything that I had learned over the last year? And that's what I did. And that was in November 2016, launched it on Instagram. And in 2 weeks, I had 2 back-to-back retreats full.
That's incredible.
So I added a third week. That one was filled, and then pivoted the business. The retreats were the core focus, and we still work with brands to sponsor the retreats.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, some of the other places you went, Peru, Greece, Bali, Costa Rica, Sri Lanka. I mean, the pictures alone, I'm like looking, I'm like, I would have gone to every single one if I could have. But there's something within you that you could have easily just kept working with brands and making more and more money solo traveled yourself, brought your friends, and kind of just continued to do that growth. And you probably could have found another way to explain to people how you were all doing this. But what inside you was telling you, like, other than there's this great opportunity where you could bring and create these retreats, but there's a part of you that wanted to be of service to other people. And more specifically, it was around women that it was only women, I believe, that were allowed on the streets. So what was the thought there? Even though you knew you were getting all these similar questions, you probably could have still kept making money with the brands. Why did you want to essentially be of service to these other people that wanted to do what you were doing?
Great question. After a year of doing like the production just for brands, I sort of started to feel a little bit burnt out because I'm like, what am I really pushing here? What am I doing? This isn't fulfilling. And again, going back to a feeling, I'm like, I'm not feeling fulfilled by just this kind of work. Where's the mission here? What's the purpose? What's the greater vision? And that's when I looked towards the community and saw that people were asking something from me. And I'm like, now it's my turn to step up and be the person that I wish that I had when I was starting, when I had all of these questions as well. And I made so many mistakes that I learned from. And so if I was able to be that person that could help other women not have to make those same mistakes or help propel them to build the business of their dreams, then I almost felt like it was my duty to do that.
Wow.
And that was really like the mission behind Pangea is like, you know, we're so much stronger together. And through empowering other women to take control over their lives, to live and build and create the life of their dreams through just knowing that you have a community of other women that believe in you. I didn't have that. I didn't have any of that. And so often throughout my, you know, my journey as an entrepreneur, just beginning, I constantly had to like defend myself and prove myself and get questions of like, when are you actually going to join the real world, Tracy? Like, what's this like fairy tale land that you live in? Like, this isn't reality. And I would be like, what are you talking about? And I'd always have to like justify myself to the point where I got to a point where I was like, I don't owe anything to you and I don't need to respond to these kind of questions anymore. Because I finally was able to stand in my power. And that was a huge turning point for me. And I was like, if I can help women also be able to find that power to step into that and realize that they are limitless, then what greater mission, you know? And so, that was it.
Yeah. I could see that at some point. It's like, even if you are getting bigger offers of money, it's like, if you're the service aspect always just adds to the reason of why you're doing something. Like, it makes it feel fulfilling. I always tell people when I do these podcasts, to me, it's 3 wins. 1, I get to have a great conversation with the guest. 2, the guest gets to tell their story, share their insight. But 3, the most important, is that somebody in this world who might not have people around them to listen to authentic and real conversations like this, that are maybe around only people that are living in the real world, this hopefully is this platform that they get to listen to. So that's always been, to me, like the biggest thing is like, this is going to be the place that they could click in, all stemming back to me of what I was looking for when I was graduating college. So it makes sense to me that you see this opportunity, you pivot and you jump in, and then now you're able to be of service to these women, still travel, still work with brands. You're still doing everything you wanted to do. And now you're getting the women to learn. There was an interview that I had came across, and you were talking about, and I love this because it's so important how, especially on these retreats, the importance of all the smallest details, from the way like when people arrive to like giving them a hug, or like there was bracelets, or like, I thought that was so important. And then I think it even probably fast forwards into everything that you do today, from every experience and event that you host. You are thinking about the minor details. Why do the minor details matter when creating an experience for people?
Because it's those small details that people typically don't even realize, but it's like a subconscious realization, and they're like, wow, that was such an amazing event. Well, that's because the lighting was perfect. You know, that's because that pillow was placed there and it allowed people to invite them to sit in that space. But it's things that you don't necessarily think about, but they're just there perfectly, and it shapes the whole experience. And I'm actually glad that you got to really experience that, you know, at the event for the midsummer party. It's a feeling, and it's also a feeling in which is the event and the experience is being created in, you know. And for the retreats, like it was a big part of the training of like retreat leaders to greet the guests when they came, to know everyone by name, to read their questionnaire before they arrived, so that they had already touch points on how they can speak to everyone. I know that you are really interested about this workshop, or you're curious to learn this, and I'm so excited to teach that to you. And, hey, Bobby, it's so great to see you today. Like, those small things, again, that like some people would really look over, make the biggest difference. And so for me, it's like the attention is truly in the detail.
I could see it. The thing that like blew my mind, there's so many things at the Midsummer Party, but the fact that, because I signed up for this event, I have no expectations. Robbie's like, it's at a house. I was like, okay, cool. There's probably music. There's gonna be some food, probably some drinks. Like, that's all I know. And then after I heard this interview, I started replaying all these little moments where like we walked in and there was somebody that like sprayed this fragrant on us. And then you had like hired people like walking around and cleaning up after people. And I was like, this is the smallest little detail that is allowing the place to stay clean and people to just enjoy themselves. And so I was like, man, this woman, Tracy, got this shit figured out.
But see, that's true. It's like the smallest detail of just having people there to clean up as the event is going, so that it doesn't turn into a whole mess. Because when the event and the space is clean, you respect it more. It just, again, subconsciously, it's the broken window effect. If you walk into a home, the window's broken, there's a mess everywhere, you're not going to respect the space. But if it's super clean, you're going to respect the space. You're going to be more careful around it.
Yeah, you're almost mirroring whatever you're walking into.
Exactly.
So I think we had talked about this a little bit before, but this ends up stopping because of the pandemic. Like when I visited the site, there were retreats that were ready, locked and loaded, ready to go for 2020. So the pandemic hits. How quickly do you have to shift everything that you're doing with Pangea?
Yeah, I mean, so we had our alumni retreat in Palm Springs, January 2020, sorry. And then locked and loaded 12 retreats starting as of April for 2020.
So it'd be every like 3 weeks?
Yeah.
Would you be at every single one?
No, I had a team that started to run them. And this was going to be the first year that I was going to go on maybe like one or two.
Wow.
And was not going to go on any of the other ones.
Wow.
Yeah. We were really growing and the team was growing. And so we were able to scale in that way. And it was very exciting. Our first retreat of the year was going to be an amazing 10-day photography content creation retreat to Morocco. And that was the first 10 days of April. And so pandemic hit March, really, that was really when it came here. And very quickly, like probably like 3 weeks into March, I was like, I really don't think we'll be able to get to Morocco. And so had to cancel the Morocco retreat, but was hoping maybe later on in the year. Then it became very clear soon after that this entire year was going to be a write-off, and we had to cancel the entire year of retreats. And we were going to places like India, Bali, Peru, like all over, incredible destinations. And overnight, basically had to shut down the business, refund everyone, deal with hotel refunds. Some we got back, some we didn't. Airline tickets, and it was tough. It was really tough.
Wow. Do you see this reopening because now the world's opening up again, or where do you sit with the potential of coming back?
I think for me, this year has been such a transformative year in so many ways, in growth, in perspective, in business, in opportunities, and also just in alignment. Again, feeling back into my intuition and where I see the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years of my life going. And that's very much in the mental health, psychedelic, mind, body, soul connection. And so I think that if I were to bring back Pangea, it would be in a very different form.
So you potentially still have retreats, but it would be more catalyst to like mental health, psychedelics, something like that.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little pivot. And that's actually how I designed the Pangea retreats. It's like every time I would learn a new practice, whether it was daily gratitude or affirmations or mirror talking or whatever it might be, it was things that I would learn and start incorporating in my life that I loved, that I'd be like, okay, we need to incorporate this on the retreat too. And so they were really kind of shaped around my own personal experience, around my own health and wellness and mental health. And then how do I incorporate that and share that with the women who are joining us? Because I saw how powerful it was. And so now I'm in a different place where I see the power of true like self-love, mental health, and the power of, what psychedelics are doing in the mental health space with the clinical trials and everything. And I'm like, how can I now incorporate that approach and that reality to a retreat experience. So
Ooh.
that's more of like, if I were to, that's kind of like the direction I think I would see it going.
Okay. So this kind of walks into Multiverse, right? So, Multiverse, supercharge your health with mushrooms. I know when we were on the hike, we had talked about it, that it was like 5 years ago, I think ish, where you had, bad eczema all over your body, saw doctors, people were telling you, yo, take this cream, and you're like, okay, it doesn't work. And you end up finding that functional mushrooms help you solve this. Does this kind of open your mind to this world of mushrooms / eventually open your mind to psychedelics?
Yeah. So basically, yes, I had eczema all over my arms, my face, my neck. I was covered. It was debilitating. Like sometimes I wouldn't leave my apartment for days because I was so physically uncomfortable in my skin. Every dermatologist I would go to, every doctor was just like, put a Band-Aid on it, put a cortisone cream, put a steroid. There's nothing we can do. It's an autoimmune disease, so we don't have any cures for it. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. You know, like I knew that something was off in my body. I felt it. And I wasn't getting the answers that I was looking for. And so again, once again, I need to be my own citizen doctor, citizen scientist, citizen entrepreneur, figure my shit out.
I forgot that in the intro. Scientist.
Yeah. No, but it's like, you know, I don't take no for an answer. And so if someone's going to say no to me, I'm like, well, I'm sure there's 10 other ways that I can figure it out. That's just your opinion. Thank you, but no thank you. And so that's really the approach that I took also to my health. And so I started to listen to a bunch of functional medicine doctor podcasts. Like Mark Hyman's podcast was a big one for me, The Doctor's Pharmacy. And they were talking a lot about autoimmune diseases and autoimmune conditions and how you can heal it with food and changing your approach, and how alcohol completely disrupts your gut microbiome, and your health starts with your gut, and so much. And so a big conversation was actually using functional mushrooms to reduce inflammation in your body. And so then I started to incorporate functional mushrooms like reishi, chaga, turkey tail into my daily routines through powders and capsules. And then I went to, a week-long juice cleanse retreat in Bali. I actually had a parasite and it was crazy.
What? We talked about this on the hike. Yeah. You actually had literally something come out of your body.
I mean, I can show you the video after this.
No
I had
way.
A worm come out of my body. And through so much detoxing and cleansing and completely changing it's not about changing your diet. It's about, it's like looking at your life and changing your lifestyle. It's not just about the foods. It's a whole holistic approach to things. And I was so committed to my healing. I changed everything in that commitment and the pursuit of like stopping to survive, but to thrive. Like I was like, I'm no longer going to survive in life. I'm thriving. And that was my goal. And again, it was like, no matter what I needed to do it, I'm going to figure it out. And that was like a huge turning point in my health. And, now it's been like over 5 years, but every single day I take some sort of a mushroom supplement. So it's been a huge part of my life. And then psychedelics came in about 2 years ago when I had my first experience that was completely life-changing.
We're going to get there in 1 second. Go back though. So 5 years ago when this is happening, you started taking the functional mushrooms. Is one of the first things you cut out, is that when you stopped drinking alcohol?
I cut out alcohol. That for me was probably one of the biggest game changers, because I started getting like these crazy rashes on my skin. Like my eczema would get way worse because alcohol creates a lot of inflammation in your body. So I was able to actually see in real time with foods and alcohol, like how my body was reacting through my skin. It was crazy.
Wow.
So it was, I was just testing. So, dairy, right away my skin would get inflamed. So I cut out dairy, I cut out alcohol, I cut out meats, I cut out gluten, I cut out egg, peanut butter, a lot. Like anything that created inflammation in your body. And again, I was learning all of this through the podcasts. And that was for about a year. And it was really difficult. But I still now don't drink alcohol. And now it's been about 5 years. And
how difficult has that been? I did... Longest I've gone is I did 75 days of no booze back in the fall. That was life-changing. And I know I did it at the right time because it was also right when this pandemic was happening. So it was like so much easier to do. There was a lot of reasons why. I forget what the real purpose was. But I had just challenged myself to do 100 days. I did 75, and then my cousin from Boston visited me and went down the drain after that. So I kind of blame him, but it's still my decision. But wow, like... I felt the best of my life. So much clarity.
Yeah.
Every single day feels the same. I don't know why I still pick up alcohol, because I know the feeling of an extended period of time without it. How crucial has that been? I mean, the thing is, for me, the hardest thing, if I'm around 100 people and nobody wants to drink, I don't care. That's perfect. I won't. I don't need it. But I'm like everybody else. It's a social thing. People around you are drinking. It's like, oh, I'll have a White Claw. Oh, I'll have this. And it kind of just stacks up. So how have you been able to just say no or just like own, like, yeah, I don't drink alcohol?
To be honest, it was really challenging at first, because what I realized is alcohol truly is the only drug that you get so much social pressure when you don't do it. And it was a really challenging experience. I was living in New York at the time, and so many of my friends, so much of the culture of New York is to drink. And I had to have conversations with my friends, or like not even go out anymore. And I isolated myself a lot during that time. Like, it was very challenging, but I was so committed to my healing that there was no choice. I had to do this. I had to do this for myself. And again, it comes down to self-love and self-commitment. And I wasn't going to put someone's discomfort with me not drinking because it made them uncomfortable that they were drinking alone over my well-being. And that was a big, big step. You know, like, I would go out for dinner with friends and they're like, I don't want to drink alone. Like, can't you just have a glass of wine with me? And I'm like, no, actually I can't. And standing in that power once again reaffirmed my self-worth, my self-value, my self-love, and my commitment to me and being the best version of myself. And, you know, it's funny, at the beginning of the podcast, you're like, she does this, and this. Like, how do you get all this energy? I honestly attribute a lot of the energy that I have to not drinking.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, you feel great.
I feel amazing every single day.
Yeah. That's I mean, really credit to you, because I think I would imagine in the early part of saying no to alcohol, it's really hard. Like you're describing,
sure.
You're out to dinner with a friend. Why won't you drink with me? But then I would imagine that you've just gotten to a place in your life where when you say no so many times, the community you're around just doesn't even question it.
Exactly.
It's like, and that's the other thing I found even the last like year. I've just been around so many more open-minded individuals that I know many people that just don't drink anymore. They like kind of close that chapter in life, and it's nobody questions them.
No.
Nobody, even when I was doing the 75 days of no booze, nobody on the West Side was like, what do you mean? They were just like, oh, cool. All right. And then on to the next, like, you want a White Claw? So it's also been very opening, just this side of town of like, it's a different lifestyle.
It really is.
I fucking love it. Psychedelics. So 2 years ago, what was that experience like? And what was it?
It was with psilocybin mushrooms. And I had tried them for the first time. I had always heard about shrooms, but I had only heard negative things because, you know, people try them in high school or this, and they have a bad trip because they don't know what they're doing and they're children. And so I kind of stayed away from them because I was nervous. But a friend of mine was telling me a lot about his experiences with them and how they completely transformed his life in not only like his self-love and how he felt and like saw himself in the world around him, but also spiritually and his spiritual connection to the universe and God and all of these realizations that he had. And I was so fascinated by his approach and his experience that I was inspired to be like, you know what? I feel ready to try this. And I've always been a very happy and optimistic person. And when I tried psilocybin for the first time, I laughed for like 4 hours straight in a field. And I was just so amazed by the beauty of nature. And it unlocked this like happiness within me, this laughter and this childlike happiness that I still have. It like unlocked it, and I still access that every single day. And it made me realize, I'm like, for someone, you know, like me who's overall like pretty good, and it was able to level me up on that much more. I was just like, how profound can this really be for people who are suffering? Like, this is a very powerful medicine. And that's when, you know, my psychedelic exploration and education and dedication to really learning more about the space began.
Have you ever messed with like microdosing?
Yeah. Yes.
How does that work? Do you feel like, 'cause essentially for those listening, it's just you're taking a very small amount that you're not hallucinating and it kind of just allows you to elevate. What has that been like?
Yeah, so when you microdose, it's subperceptual. You're not hallucinating, exactly like you said. And it really helps with reducing anxiety, with clarity, with focus, with creativity. And so it's just been a beautiful experience. So anytime I'm feeling like I need a little like extra kick in focus and creativity when I'm in the process of like creation of something, or I really want to ideate on a new idea of, again, it's this place of creation. Microdosing has been really helpful in a fun way to expand my mind.
Wow. Yeah, I gotta mess around with it more. I tried magic mushrooms for the first time maybe 2 months ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and I had a blast. It was me, Robbie, 2 others out in Joshua Tree. Like it could have been a better setup for it.
Amazing.
And I need to revisit it and mess around with it more. That's been definitely the last 6 months, is like just opening my mind to new experiences.
Beautiful.
Saying yes to a lot of, it could be as small as trying sushi for the first time 3 months ago.
What?
Or crazy, I know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been in the last 6 months, if I in the beginning of the year, I was actually keeping in my notes app a list of like all the things I was saying yes to that I'd never done before. And I just stopped. I shouldn't have. But it's been a very, like the entire year, I went into the new year with a quote. I don't know who actually first said it, but open to everything, attached to nothing.
Absolutely.
And that's how I've been living my entire life this year. And it's been unbelievably beautiful. And that was I was like, there's a chance to try shrooms. Never done this before. And that's just been the year of just like try things in smart environments. Don't do anything that's going to cost you your life, and
No.
just learn and try. And
Incredible.
It's been beautiful.
That's really cool, Bobby.
Yeah.
It's very inspiring. And I think that like when you can approach life from that place of curiosity and openness, it opens your entire world to so many more possibilities, conversations, people, experiences, and opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have even seen.
Yeah.
Like you're really opening your eyes right
Yeah.
now, which opens your entire life. Like,
Totally.
It's powerful.
Yeah. And then you start seeing things differently, where you don't just see a tree for a tree. You see it as this beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that shit. People listening are like, this guy's cooked, but you'll get it. You'll
get
know
it.
one day when it clicks, you're going to be like, all right, I get it.
Totally.
So does these experiences in the last couple of years, is this where you're then wanting to step into the mental health space? Like, has there been any mental health challenges you've personally dealt with in the last couple of years that you've had to overcome?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, with building Pangea, always feeling like I needed to prove my self-worth. Like I really had to cultivate that power within myself, to not doubt myself. And that was really challenging, the self-doubt that I was going through when the whole world around me didn't believe in me. And then going on the retreats and hearing so many of the women's stories of, why they made certain decisions, or the struggles that they had gone through, the mental health that they were suffering through. It just opened my entire reality to different perspectives, different people's stories, which made me so much more compassionate as a human. And then, also going through the pandemic, having to shut down this business that I built, but not being sad for a second and never playing the victim, because again, it's like throughout my entire journey, I never had time to play the victim. I always had to go and figure it out. And there was none of that. And it was always like, okay, these are the cards that I was dealt. Now, how am I going to react to it? What's going to be my response?
Yeah.
I don't have control that there's a global pandemic. I don't have control that this might have happened to me. But what I do have control over is my reaction, my response to it. And so it was like also cultivating that energy and just realizing how the power of my mind was creating the reality that I was living in and how powerful that was. And honestly, like once I tapped into that and realized that, I really realized like I'm truly limitless and I can create whatever it is that I want to do. And I realized as well, like the only limitations that exist are the ones that I put on myself. So why would I do that? And so just coming from that kind of a mindset and mentality really made me realize how profound not only psychedelics are, but how profound mental health is to getting people to the right mindset to then make that choice to change their world and their reality. But it all starts within us.
Yeah. I mean, the mind is the most powerful thing. It's literally when you can reshape your perspective on the cards you've been dealt, the way you're living your life, it completely opens your mind to these possibilities.
Yeah.
And I think I think two things that have allowed me to be much more open-minded and not play the victim is meditation, and adding stillness to my life has been so crucial. It's been one of the biggest takeaways that I've had during this entire pandemic. And then two, just reading books that were spiritual / just like open-minded. And it just, I don't know, it just completely allowed me to stop thinking just one directional and just being so much more open to life and experiences. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like this this thing now inside me where things happen to me and I don't react to it.
Yeah.
I don't resist it. I just flow with it. And
Absolutely.
if it's something that I can't control, I just, what's the point?
Exactly.
How do we benefit? You know, I used to be somebody that like would get so like in high school. I just think back to my blood pressure would get high. I would like overreact, or I would let somebody else's decision making hurt me. And now I'm just like, that shit doesn't bother me anymore. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care what somebody says about me. I don't care how this person wants to play their cards. Like, I can only play what's in my hand. And when you can get into that space, it just allows everything else to flow, and it just always works itself out.
Oh, that's so true. I mean, a quote that I continuously say to myself is, life happens for you, not to you.
Yeah.
And that's a big mindset shift when you
Yeah.
can come and approach situations in that way. It's rather than being like, oh, poor me, why me? It's, what is this experience right now showing me and teaching me?
Yeah.
And how can I learn and grow from that?
Yeah.
So it's always a growth mentality.
Yeah. What is holding you back from starting this podcast? Because I remember we talked about this briefly on the LA Hike Club, that you definitely think you want to start a podcast someday. Is there anything holding you back at this moment in time?
No, I'm ready.
You have to do it.
I'm going to do
You're
it.
going to fucking crush it.
Thank you.
Literally going to crush it. And
Thank you.
I can't wait to see when that actually happens. I saw an interesting thing that I'd read. I think it was an interview or maybe it was a podcast that you were on. In 2019, you go to Burning Man. You didn't have a ticket. You kind of just booked a flight and was like, I'm going to have to find a way. You also went solo. Literally, you are unbelievable. You at the time, you had said this was top 5 experiences of your life. How would you describe Burning Man? Because I only knew about Burning Man probably around 2018, 2019. And we've even discussed like if we need to do this like soon. Me and Robbie, I know, have been very interested in wanting to do it. What is this experience like?
Burning Man. You know, you really do your research. I'm very impressed with you.
I try.
So Burning Man was a really profound and life-changing experience for me for a few reasons. One, from the age of 17 till 28, I was in 3 back-to-back long-term relationships. And
well, that's another conversation. We're going out. Just keep it rolling, baby.
But, you know, they were beautiful relationships. I learned a lot, but a lot of that, I really realized how so much of my life, even though I was always an entrepreneur doing my own thing and very independent, was dictated a lot of the time by like my partners. And, you know, one of my ex-boyfriends was a doctor and like never had an opportunity, never could go to Burning Man because he was in medical school. My partner after that, like just had no interest in going to Burning Man. So I had to continuously suppress my desire and wanting to go to Burning Man and exploring because of them. And then in July 2019, my last partner and I broke up. And the first thing I did was book a flight to Reno. And I was like, I'm finally going to go to Burning Man. This is the one thing I wanted to do. And I have absolutely nothing holding me back anymore. And what I had realized as well in my decision of wanting to go alone is because I had been tied to people for my entire adult life through these relationships. And I didn't want to have another experience that was at all influenced by anyone else.
Question. Did any of them ever support you and like, you should still go? You should find somebody, or just that the conversation never even happened?
I mean, they were kind of like, I mean, you could go, I guess, but like, it wasn't empowering.
They weren't like, you got to go do this.
No.
Like excited, like you go do it. I'll keep doing.
No, it was like, I don't really want to go. And so like, I mean, you're going to go on your own. Like, that's kind of weird.
Come on.
You know? So yeah. And again, like I was younger, it was just, anyway, so I decided, I was like, I need to do this experience completely alone so that I can finally have my own independent experience that's not at all influenced by anyone else who's ever been before, who's done it this way, who I know the right way to do it. We need to go here on Saturday and there on Tuesday. And I'm like, no, I just need to go and like also be alone. You know, be alone truly for the first time with 70,000 people, but like be alone and truly like reconnect with who I am and myself and put myself in situations that I'm slightly uncomfortable with, like, which I love. And that's also why I really love traveling, is because I love finding the comfort in discomfort and then refinding that comfort, you know? And so, yeah, I booked a flight to Reno. I didn't have a ticket. Ended up finding a ticket 2 weeks before Burning Man. And even if I didn't have a ticket for Burning Man, I was still going to go to Reno and wait at the airport to get a ticket. Like, I was going to Burning Man. And I found a random camp on Facebook. I joined that camp because I didn't want to join any camps that my friends were at.
Wow.
I like very intentionally.
So you had friends that are actually going.
Oh my God. So I had friends that have camps, you know, that I would have been completely set up and hooked up with. And I was like, no, I don't want that experience to be my first experience.
Wow.
Sorry,
Robbie, we're not going anymore, brother. I'll see you there.
I mean, again, it's like you could do Burning Man however way you want. But for me, it was really almost like a rite of passage in me being my true independent self for the first time ever. And yeah, I joined this random camp on Facebook. Got a tent and showed up on the playa.
Wow. And Burning Man's 10 days, is that right? Or
it was 8 days. It's 7 nights, 8 days. Yeah.
And you're just, oh man. I'm so rattled. That is like, you're fucking literally Superwoman. It's unbelievable. Like you just literally unapologetically since you were 19 and damn well for the work you've done to make this happen, you have just lived the life that you've wanted. Yeah. It's like, this is a very, I love every podcast I've ever had. All of them are fucking great. But this is a very unique story that I have not come across a lot of people that have navigated their life like this.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it's hard work. It's not, here's the thing. It's such the norm for you now, but it is so clear that this wasn't like, you just flipped a coin and everything's always worked out. Like you like people talk about building their dream life and building the life they've always envisioned. But like, this is it. Yeah. Like this is truthfully, I mean, one of the most realist stories that I've ever come across.
Thank you. I mean, it's a choice, you know, and it's a choice to always choose happiness first and prioritize that. And if you follow that, then everything else will come. But it's doing things for the right reasons that ignite your soul, you know, and that's what gives my life meaning and purpose. And that's what allows me to show up with authenticity, because there is no other way to be. Because I cannot do something that doesn't feel right. And now it's like a muscle that's so strong.
Yeah, you're so used to it. You've been putting in the reps.
Yeah.
They literally talk about meditation and how when you continuously do it over a long period of time, that they have had studies where it shows, like, you know, I don't know the whole scientific of the brain, but how it actually does positively impact your life. So I do believe it's like anything else, where the more reps you do something, the better you're going to get at it. And inevitably. So you just continuously putting yourself in the uncomfort. Yeah. Uncomfort literally is your comfort. Exactly. You need to be uncomfort. Otherwise you're like anxious, like, okay, this is too usual. What are we doing here?
Easy. This is boring.
Tracy's been here for 1 year. She's out for the next 2 months. I'm like, what?
No, but even it's like, I moved here in June and I was like, all right, where's the community at? Let's go. I'm not going to wait for a community to show up. I'm going to build a community. Yeah. You know? And I'm like, that's also been something. It's like, what I want to be able to be the creator of what I see or feel is missing in the world. I'm not going to wait around for someone else to do it, because I want it right now. So let's go.
Unbelievable. So you had 3 long-term relationships.
Yes.
And in 2019, how does getting out of these 3 long-term relationships, what is your mindset then from that one into 2019 to where you are now?
Wow, Bobby, it's been the most transformative and expansive 2 years of being single and being on my own. Huh. And just like the power that I feel, the more like the connection that I feel with myself, my mission, my purpose on a whole other level. It's so profound. It's so profound. And just like being able to be an individual truly, you know, and like what that means for me, and like allowing me to show up as Tracy, you know, not like me and X, me and this person, or it's been such a transformative experience in really, really fostering a relationship with me. And that's been my goal, like very actively wanting to stay single, to be single, so that I can fall deeper in love with myself.
Oh, that's good. So when even in between those relationships, what was the average? Was there like 3 to 5 months in between, or?
One of them was 3 months. The other one was like a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. And again, it's like I could have very easily found myself in relationships, you know, over the last 2 years. But my goal was, no, I'm already in a relationship, and that's with me.
Yeah.
And that is the most important relationship that any of us will ever have in our lives, is the one that we have with ourselves.
Yes.
At the end of the day, who else are we left with? It's just you.
Yes. I have a podcast coming out on Thursday. I just recorded on Monday. I do the solo podcast, and this one talks about how important it was for me when I graduated college that I've always been independently single without a like true relationship since high school. I mean, the last decade, there have been these little things that happen for a couple weeks or a couple months, but it's never been official. I've always been single. Mm-hmm. And but I talk about how there was a pivotal moment of when I was graduating college, didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, kind of had a heartbreak in college, right around my spring to senior year. Don't know what I want to do with my life. I'm just going to go all in on myself. Yeah. And it wasn't even until the beginning of this year that I was like open-minded to dating, because I had just continuously was just trying to figure out who I was. Mm-hmm. And the moment I knew I was doing the right thing for the longest time, because everything was always falling into place. I was growing my creative career. Everything else has always been slowly growing. But there was a moment about 5-6 weeks ago where I got a call from one of my buddies from high school, great guy. And he was kind of telling me he just didn't know. He was very lost. And me and him, it took 2 different paths after college. I went all into myself. He definitely chose to just get a job, make some money, and party and have these things with women, and having this conversation where he was about to, make these decisions to move home and like try to figure out what he wanted to do with his life. I didn't want to see him in that position, but it was the moment where I was like, you made the right choice. Yeah. Because since I graduated college in 2016, I have spent so much alone time that I know who I am. Mm-hmm. I know what I want to do with my life. I know my strengths. I know my weaknesses. I know how to be happy alone. I don't rely on somebody. I'm very independent. But it's such a beautiful place, like you're speaking on, where you are in love with the person you see in the mirror. Yes. Some will take it. Now there's ways. Some people would think of it as like, if you're talking positively about you, that it could come off as cocky, but it's pure confidence. It's pure self-love and owning yourself for every characteristic. And I love myself for my weaknesses. I love myself for the strengths, but it's such an important thing for people to go through, to have that stillness, align on who they really are, to then be able to understand, now that I know who I am, I know the type of people that I would welcome into my life. And you're not needing somebody for happiness. If anything, it's only going to enhance the happiness because you're already happy with who you are at the end of the day. So that's beautiful.
100. I could not agree more with you. And it's like, I don't agree with the concept of like oh, she's my other half or he's my other half. Like, no, I am whole. Me, myself, I am whole. And if I'm going to invite someone now into my life, like, great, we can be 2 wholes together and elevate each other, but I'm still me. And my priority still needs to be with myself. But I'm curious for you, like, what has been the most, like, the practice, I guess, that you feel has really allowed you to step into that place of self-love from
That's great.
Like truly like heart-centered in that way.
Yeah, that's really great. It kind of goes to, it all literally goes back to literally that moment of graduating college where I recognized that there's two ways this goes right now. I'm going to graduate college, take any job that comes across my lap, run with it for a year or two, probably hate it, then pop over to another company and just fall into this rabbit hole. Or I am going to create my path and I'm going to start really figuring out who I was. Because I thought going into college, by the time I graduate, I'm going to know everything about myself. And I was graduating college and I was like, I just had a 4-year vacation.
Yeah.
I had a lot of fun, did a lot of dumb shit, no regrets, but like I still don't know who I am. And so I think that was the moment, and thank goodness for my parents because they were so supportive and I recognized how important parental figures can be.
Absolutely.
Especially I had kids that I went to college with that were like, my parents literally told me to go get this job. Like I didn't have an option. My parents were like, we will support you in anything that you do. Just know that your college loan's kicking 6 months. You have to pay for that. Other than that, you want to go drive Uber, you want to start a podcast or whatever that is, like go right ahead.
Yeah.
And so I think it was that pivotal moment of just recognizing that if I don't own up to figuring out who I am and what do I want to do with my life, it's either going to get delayed and I'm going to try scrambling to figure it out in my later 20s or 30s or later in my life, or I do it now. And then from that moment, I just started listening to the right podcasts. I started reading the right books. I started just cutting out people that were pulling me in the wrong direction, that weren't motivating me, that weren't inspiring me. So I think the moment was really just having that like crossroads at graduating college of like, I either go this way or that way. And then from that, it was just all these other decisions that it's not easy to cut out people in your life that have been there for a long period of time, but it's also like, it's not that if they call that wouldn't pick up. It's just, you have to understand there's like balance of the person that you used to stay in touch with on a daily, weekly basis. Maybe go a couple months and see how you feel, you know? So God, it's been a beautiful self-discovery chapter of my life. And then it's like, even moving to Venice, I'm like, whew, like I'm entering another world that I never even knew about, and experiences and things. And I'm just like, fuck, I got a whole nother level to go. But,
But ultimately you chose you.
Yeah.
You chose yourself.
Yeah.
Rather than other people's opinions of what you should do or what society is saying you should do. You're like, no, I'm going to tap into me.
Yeah.
And again, that's so beautiful to hear. And that definitely resonates a lot.
Yeah. It takes in the moments of making these decisions, these big decisions in your life, it's scary, but you really just got to believe in yourself. And people hear it, but they like, I mean it. You have to really just bet on yourself.
Yeah, you do.
You just have to just know that back's against the wall. I'm going to find a way to make this work. And unapologetically. And it always seems to work out, as we literally have heard today on this podcast. We're going to get into closing cues. This has been such a good conversation, Tracy. What's an area of your life you need to put more effort into?
Daily routines. Definitely.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why, but since moving to LA, I feel like it's just been so fast paced and exciting and just so many new people and new experiences. It's been so beautiful. Also starting a new company and, you know, all of like the things that kind of came with that too. I just haven't been able to like really find a good morning routine that I can stick with. So that's something that I know I'm missing that I need to incorporate again.
You just let me know when you're ready for that conversation, because your boy, people probably, my old roommates used to say it's like Groundhog Day living with me, because it's the same shit every single day. But I say, you know what? I know what I'm supposed to be doing and when. Every single, at least Monday through Friday, I'm very structured. Weekends, I kind of allow myself to just not just live and not, you know, be so anal about what time I wake up and all that. But my morning routine is dialed to a T. So I'm happy to help you if we can have a conversation and I can be of any value. I'll need to take notes. What is the first step anyone can take to reaching their inner potential? We said it. Believe in yourself. You know, like really, really wholeheartedly believe in yourself. And you have to be selfish first to be selfless.
And so figuring out what you need to succeed is so crucial and so important to then be at service, to then go out and help, you know? And so I think that in order for someone to really go out and achieve, it starts with you. And like, you need to make that choice to commit to yourself.
Yeah, completely agree. It's beautiful. What's, as we wrap up this podcast, I always allow the guests to put a challenge out there to the listeners. If they've made it this far in the podcast, 63 minutes in, what's one challenge you have for the listener today after they wrap up this podcast?
So one of the most profound things that I incorporated into my life a few years ago was, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but daily gratitude.
Amen.
And, you know, writing down or saying out loud 3 to 10 things that you're grateful for every day, even something as small as like, I'm so grateful that I can open my eyes every morning and see the sun, you know, and whatever it might be, something that you're going through that day. And it just completely rewires your brain from scarcity and lack to abundance. Yeah. Because you realize how much goodness you actually have. And it's a beautiful practice. That's one. Can I add another one?
Please.
You know, we spoke a lot about self-love and really believing in yourself. And a big one also that I incorporated a few years ago was mirror talking. And really developing, again, that like love and that relationship with yourself. And what I find is so interesting is we look other people in the eyes. We tell other people that we love them. We tell other people how amazing they are. You know, we actually have proper conversations with other people, but we never look at ourselves as another person. And when you can actually look at yourself in the mirror and stare at yourself in the eyes and tell yourself like, I love you truly and deeply. At first, it's very uncomfortable. And we would do this on the retreats. I would challenge the women, go back to your room at the end of the day, tell yourself 10 times in the eyes that you love yourself. They'd come back the next morning and they're like, I could only do it twice. I could only do it 3 times. But by the end of the week, you know, everyone was doing it the full 10 times and people were crying. And it's like the first time they ever saw themselves. And that practice for me has been one of the most profound ones because, again, it comes back to it. As long as I got me, I'm good. I don't need anyone else. I don't need anything. I got me. Yeah. And now it's like every time I look at myself in the mirror, I have this like very playful, fun relationship with myself. I'm like, hey, Tracy, what's up? You look good today, you know? And like, I can be that for myself. I don't need to seek it or see it from anyone else externally outside of me. And that's been such a beautiful practice.
Yeah. I always talk about in a lot of the solo podcasts that I do is you got to be your biggest hype man or your biggest hype woman. And that's exactly what that is.
That is.
I don't do it as much as I used to, but for a long part of my podcast career before a guest would come, I would take a video of me. If you're an OG listener, you know, but I would literally for 15 seconds, I would do a whole like video on my story of just me dancing in the mirror with music bumping, like getting super hyped up. And people are like, what is this guy fucking doing? But I would call it my pre-podcast hype. I wanted to get my energy up. I wanted to feel great about myself and, you know, ultimately just try to create a great experience for the guests. And the last thing I want is to like feel low and like have them come in and like, I want that energy to be pushed to them. So I'm a big fan of that. And the gratitude, what's interesting, I do it daily, is then you end up at some point, you start actually writing about or saying things out loud. You're grateful for the bad moments.
Oh, you
start actually taking the time to recognize them and appreciate them. And it's like this unbelievable feeling of like, I'm grateful for these hurdles. I'm grateful that I was rejected by this person. I'm grateful that this person didn't believe in me. And it just sets the fucking tone for the day. And, both of those are incredible.
It's so true because it allows you also to be in a place of like true like trust and surrender.
Yes.
You know, and it's like you're no longer grasping onto things and strangling things. You allow them to flow.
Yes.
And you're able to then see opportunities and experiences in a completely different way. Yeah. And so, you know, with everything that, you know, I've gone through, you know, in my journey, there's been so much inner trust and surrender.
Yeah.
And those 2 words are really big ones for me. And
inner trust and surrender.
Just trust and surrender.
Oh, that's good.
They're huge, you know, and like I trust that everything is happening for me, not to me. And so I surrender to what is happening around me. And that completely also changes your mindset for whatever it is that you're dealing with and experiencing. Can I actually share something?
Please.
I'm sorry.
The mic is yours.
I'm sorry. So This was in 2019. You know how I'm sure you've heard now, so many people are like, oh, I've had a download. I've had this download. I don't know if, have you heard people say that?
No.
Oh, okay.
First, it was the first.
So I would always hear people say like, I got a download from the universe. And I was like, okay, you got a download. Like, you know, and the universe is speaking to me. And then I was doing a mirror talk in the middle of a morning, you know, getting ready. And I had a download. And these words rushed into my mind. And this has been my daily mantra that I read to myself every single day now for the last 2 years. And this for me is like my guiding principle to living a successful life. All right, ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. When we surrender our power and let go of control, that is when we invite the space for magic to flow into our lives. Surrender your power, trust that you will be taken care of, allow for the magic to flow. Money is abundant, opportunity is abundant, everything flows to me. The magic will reveal itself if you allow yourself to see it. Stay focused, stay open, everything happens for a reason. When you change your mind, you change your life. You control how you see, experience, and feel your reality. I know my value, I know my worth. Speak your truth, and others will feel and see it too. The magic awaits.
Wow. That's beautiful. You just wrote that one morning?
That's it, yeah. It just kind of came to me, and honestly, I don't even feel like those words are mine. It's crazy. It was a very strange experience. I haven't had an experience again like that in 2 years, but that was like the key for me to unlocking all of my fullest potential and truly cultivating this mindset of full limitlessness.
Yeah. Wow, that's beautiful. I'm going to have you send that to me, and I'm going to put that in the description of this podcast underneath all the notes, because I think that's something really good that people should almost potentially read every single day. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
Tracy, this has been such an incredible conversation. I mean, doing all the research and kind of hearing you through word of mouth through multiple people and hearing nothing but good things, I was like, I knew that this podcast was inevitable at some point. And just hearing it today and seeing how authentic and genuine you are, and also just credit to you of having that relentless ability to always find the way, I think is so important for people to hear. And I am just such a big fan. I can feel your energy. Seeing at that midsummer party, seeing you walk like on the other side of the party, I could see it. I was very much an observer that day because I didn't know a lot of people, and I knew you were the hit of the party, and I would just see you moving and mingling. And I was like, this woman is on another fucking planet. I don't know what it is, but just hearing it today in real time and being able to document your journey and some of your stories, like, just an honor. This has been such a beautiful conversation. So I appreciate you taking the time to be part of it today.
When you asked me, I told you right away over text. I was like, I'm honored to be a guest on your podcast. Like, I cannot wait. Yeah. And seriously, I'm so grateful to have, had this time together to chat and dive deeper. And I'm excited. Hopefully you're coming on Hike Club tomorrow.
I think I have to, because you know what's funny? I knew you coming here today. I was like, there's 100% chance I'm going to have to be at Hike Club.
Yes, you are.
And it's your last one, right?
It is for the summer. So yeah, got to show up.
Got
to show up for your people.
I'll be there. I'm already there. There's no question about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this podcast today, please, me and Tracy have a favor to ask from you. Screenshot this episode on whatever platform you were listening in on. Tag Tracy. She's at Tracy, TracyKomlos. Tag her on your IG. Tag me at Bobe, B-O, 3 B's, 4 A's and Y. Let us know what the greatest takeaway was, what the biggest learning was. Would be very curious to hear what gem or tidbit you are taking away from this podcast. Let us know. I will also have Tracy's websites and socials and every business that she's involved in. It'll probably be about 15 pages deep by the time this podcast rolls out. It'll all be linked in the description, so please feel free to reach out to her directly there. Tracy, thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. It's the Bearded Man Podcast. See you.